When you're looking to buy a camera for your church, there's a lot of questions that you have to ask. What are you going to use it for? How much should you spend? What's a good deal or what's not a good deal? And so today on Practical Church Planting, we're going to give you 4 things to consider when looking for a camera.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsian. Joining me here is Dylan Dodson. And today we're talking about 4 things to consider when buying a camera for your church.
That's right. We've been through this journey.
Yeah.
We're recording this with a camera.
That's
and if you're
true.
watching the video version of this and you're listening to the podcast, maybe you should watch the video version of it.
Maybe.
Sitting in front of me are the 2 cameras that we primarily use. And so Brian is going to lead us through things to consider, and then we'll talk about the ones that we use, and you can actually see them as well.
That's true. Yeah, so we're going to talk about things to consider. We are by no means video experts, we'll say. And also, this isn't going to be a you need to buy this kind of camera kind of podcast, because by the time this comes out, 50 other cameras are going to come out and it's going to be obsolete. So these are just things to think through when going and buying a camera, whether it's your first or your 50th.
Although hopefully it's not obsolete, because then we got to buy a new camera. But
well, that's a different story. So things to think through when buying a camera. Number 1, this is the big one, and that's price.
ooh, I just never would have thought of that.
I know. We're changing the world here with this podcast. Price. That's as I was preparing for this, I was kind of reading some things. I found an article that was just things to consider when buying a camera for your church. Right. And we didn't copy it or anything, because the first thing it said to consider is price, and then it was followed by a little statement that I actually wrote down, and it said that, quote, you can theoretically get a video setup for under $5,000. Theoretically. In other words, maybe if you try hard enough, you can get it for under $5,000. So what I'd say when it comes to price is be responsible.
Yes.
Because $5,000, if you're watching this and you're just planning a church or getting ready to, $5,000 to dump on a video setup, probably unwise.
It is very,
I would say, unless you are.
And even with that, we talk a lot about doing stuff online, engaging people online, but you've got to have, for lack of a better word, kind of a base that people can actually come to, unless you're doing fully online, which I wouldn't recommend. And so there's a lot of things that you need in the beginning. And so spending a lot of money on a camera, spending all that money on a camera will make it difficult for you to do other things.
Yeah, and this is a tough one, because once you get, even if you're not a video person, once you kind of jump down the rabbit hole a little bit of video cameras, it's so hard to get something cheap. Like it's not because it's not out there, but just because everyone says that everything else is better.
Right.
So you can find used, there's nothing wrong with finding used cameras last. You can get them repaired, things like that. But look cheaper. Don't feel like you have to start out with this like cinema quality something just to
And even with that, as we
yourself.
talked about, which is why we don't recommend live streaming your services unless you can do it really well. The cameras that we have, we would not live stream with these services as well.
That's true.
So let me ask you this, Brian. You don't want to spend $50 on a camera. You're planning a church, you're a new church, you're a small church. What is something reasonable just for people to have an idea of a ballpark of
dollar amount?
Yeah, what they might need to consider.
It's tough to say, because what's cheap for one church is expensive for another. But somewhere in the ballpark of $400 to $500, you can get something that's decent enough to where where it's not noticeable that it's lacking, but it's not going to be, the greatest thing in the world, but it'll be fine. For example, I won't give you the example because I don't want to tell you what we have until the end of the episode.
Yeah. So that's good, because you're not going to spend thousands of dollars, but you're also, if you find something for $100 or less, it's probably not worth it. One of the reasons why we discourage live streaming if you can't afford it is sometimes it's better to have nothing than to have low quality. If you have a low quality camera and people are seeing that, they just get really turned off by what you're doing. You're likely not to attract new people that are interested in your church with low quality stuff. And so you don't have to spend thousands of dollars, but you have to spend at least a few hundred, most likely.
Yeah. And, we live in the world of reviews. So read a bunch of reviews, figure out what it is. But another thing to remember is that no matter what you're using it for, whether you're using it for recording services or you're starting a church vlog or something like that, you're going to need other equipment, most likely. Most likely, you're not just going to need a camera. You might need mics. You might need, if you want to live stream, there's a bunch of other stuff that you need. And so keep in mind that just buying the camera is not going to be the end of the bill, the end of the bill. So keep price in mind, be responsible, set a budget before you go out and buy something, and stick to it. Second thing to consider when buying a church camera is to figure out what exactly you're buying it for. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of different things in the church you can use a camera for, but figure out what exactly you want it for, because whatever you want it for, I'm saying for a lot, is going to dictate what you need.
Right.
So if you're buying it to live stream a service, one of the cameras we have sitting right here is called a DSLR. It's a point and shoot camera like everyone's ever seen, but those max out at 30 minutes recording.
Yep.
So you can get great quality. You can probably get better quality with that than some of the other options. However, if you buy that and plan just to record your services and you speak for 40 minutes,
which is
you're in trouble.
I don't know the difference between all these, and you can tell me if they're better or not. But it seems like, in my opinion, our DSLR is better than our other one.
It is, yeah.
And before we bought a camera, we were actually looking at a DSLR before we bought our first camera. But then we realized, you have 29 minutes to record, which is a problem for the services. So, because you don't want to base your sermon time based off of the camera. And so, knowing what you want it for, and not just buying a nice camera because it looks nice and it's discounted or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, knowing what you're going to use it for is big.
Yeah, and other things like if you aren't going to listen to us and do want to live stream, you have to have certain hookups to be able to live stream. You have to have, for at least our setup, a mini HDMI input. And so just figuring out what exactly you want to use it for will dictate what kind of camera that you're going to buy.
Right.
Number 3, figure out what other equipment you need. You kind of touched on this a second ago, but for example, if you're recording your service, you need to figure out how exactly you're going to be recording the audio.
Right.
Because audio through any camera, pretty much any camera you get, the audio is going to be bad. No built-in mic is very good on any camera. And so figuring out how exactly you're going to be recording audio. If you're doing, say, for example, recording interviews, one of the things that we do is we have cameras set up there just specifically for recording interviews. However, for recording our service, we have sound go through our soundboard.
Right.
So figuring out how exactly you're going to be recording sound, what other equipment you need to be able to accomplish whatever you want to use or whatever you want to do is something you got to consider.
Yeah, and we've talked about the previous episodes. For a while, we live streamed with something called a Mevo.
Yes.
Which you may be familiar with, maybe not be, and it's a live streaming device.
Yeah, it's a big name in live streaming.
And we stopped doing it because we were trying to follow our advice. The quality was not good enough, and you have to be within like 5 or 10 feet first of all, or else it doesn't look good. And it's like so then it's like an awkward setup because it has to be close. And for that one, you didn't need a lot of extra stuff, but the quality wasn't good. It was awkward to set up in our auditorium because you had to it was like in front of our second chair. It was just weird. It wasn't good. And I think too, this is what gets difficult because I think a lot of us want to live stream or a lot of us want to do a lot of things. And so we try to buy an inexpensive camera that says it can do it all.
Yeah.
But it can do it all, just not very well.
Exactly. Yeah. So figuring out kind of all the other equipment and what you said kind of ties into my 4th point, and that's figure out what else you can use it for. So not just what you plan to use it for, but what else you can use it for. One of the problems with the Mevo is that it's not really good for anything else. It's not really good for what it's meant for either, if we're being honest. But it's meant to live stream, and it does it fine, but it's not meant to record. It's not meant to create videos with. And so if you're on a budget and can only get one thing, figure out something that can kind of encompass everything.
Right. And which is, again, it was what you're talking about. What are you buying it for? What equipment do you need? Which is why we have, I don't even know what this one is called. I guess you can explain it in a second. Our original one, we didn't go with the DSLR because we wanted to make regular videos with it, but we also wanted to record the service.
Yeah.
And so we had to get something that could do everything that we wanted it to do. And again, if you're planning a church, you're a small church, you're a new church, you don't have the option to buy 4 different cameras for 4 different things. You've got to get something that's general to everything, which is also why buying a camera for $100 or less is not going to do it for you either, because you need one that can do a few things.
Yeah, exactly. If you had a few different options or a few different cameras and wanted to try something different for a second or third one, then it's, I guess, okay to go a little bit more of a gamble and maybe get something a little cheaper or more expensive. Right. But yeah, if you're starting off and just want to get one camera, which is a smart thing to do, just get one thing to start off with, get something that can do everything. So we'll show you what we use. This is by no means the the camera showroom or like the greatest stuff in the world. This is just what we use, and everything here is a couple years old. We got this this would have been 2017, I think. I
think 2018. But it was
okay. Either way,
but it was. I don't think it was new in 2018.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So this is, if you can see it, it's kind of hard to tell in the
and if you're
video.
watching, I guess you can say what it is for people listening.
It's a Panasonic HC-VX981. Don't forget that. It's a 4K camera. It's just a camcorder. It's really nothing super special. It's I believe we got it because when we were looking, it was a 4K camera that had great reviews and did the things we wanted it to do.
It was on discounted for Amazon, so I think it was at the $450 range. It might be more expensive now. It was discounted for whatever reason. And this one they had 1080 and they had 4K. The reason we went with 4K, again, concerning what you want to use it for, is we have it in the back of our auditorium, and 4K cameras you can crop and it won't be as pixelated as quickly or as easily as a 1080. If that's not the best terminology, but we knew it was in the back of our auditorium, so we wanted to get something that we could crop that would not completely ruin the quality of the video.
Yeah, so this has worked out fine. For the longest time, we just used this for all interviews, for anything we did walking around, any video we wanted to make, including filming Sundays, we use this. and it was
And extra
perfectly
equipment that
fine.
we don't show here, we have a little thing that you could hold on to it when you're walking with it.
That's true.
And then this Rode microphone, if you're watching the video, this comes off and attaches to whatever, and we put that on top.
Yep.
It's a pretty simple setup.
Yep. So then over here we have this we got, you know, you'll never know. You never know what you can rely on the people of your church for. This camera was donated to us by someone in our church who just wasn't using it much anymore. And this has been great. So this is a DSLR, trying to grab it without knocking my mic over.
Do you know the model or the
Yep.
make?
It's a Canon D5500. And it's good. I mean, this camera is more meant for photography than video, but we use it for videos all the time, and it's great. We have a Rode mic hooked up to it that works real good because it has bad audio. We have a little, if you can see, a little mini tripod that collapses, makes it easy to do like vlogging style things.
Yep.
And this thing costs, I think, $10 or $8 or something. But it's a good camera. We use it for pretty much everything that we don't use the other one for, and we pretty much use it for everything that's not filming on Sundays.
Right. And I'm not sure what it goes for now, but this is 4 or 5 years old, I think, at least. And again, I think part of this too is you don't have to have the best thing ever, but you also need to realize it's not the best thing ever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so again, we keep harping on live streaming. I think the interview that you were, or the article that you were talking about in the beginning was like theoretically for under $5,000. We look at that and we're like, that's crazy. Well, I'm assuming they were assuming you were trying to live stream with it. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
And they recognize that you should not live stream cheaply because it can be more of a turn off for people. It could appear cheap. And so we use these both within a couple, $400 or $500 that you could get them. They do different things. Again, this one was donated, so you never know what you could ask.
Exactly.
For what people could do. But they're not huge, and we do a lot of stuff with them. And I mean, we'd like to get better ones at some point.
Yeah.
But we use what we have, and
you know what the good thing about when it comes time to get a second camera, I wouldn't say for anyone to get it as your first camera, but when it comes time to get a second camera, to get a DSLR, because even if you get it cheap, lenses make the camera more than the camera makes the camera, so you can get lenses as you increase your budget and things like that without having to continually buy new cameras. But this is the camera that we film pretty much all these videos with. So other than the one today, because we had to show it, if you like the quality of the video, that's the kind of camera it is. But it's everything stock on it. It's just the camera the way it comes.
Yep. And again, the DSLR works because these are 15 minutes or less.
Exactly.
So we don't ever run out of time.
That's exactly right. So
Brian, you just have taught me so
You
much.
sound like you had something to say. So that's 4 things to consider when buying your first church camera or buying a church camera. I guess it doesn't have to be your first.
That's right.
But I think those, again, are price, know what you're buying it for, know what other equipment you'll need, and figure out what else you can use it for.
That's right. So, hey, if you have questions about camera, audio, or anything,
Life advice.
practicalchurchplanting.com/questions. We'll talk about it in a future episode. Thanks for listening today. Brian, thanks for all your magnificent insights.
I'm so happy to do it.
Your insights. Appreciate it.
Well, I invite too.
And we'll see you next time on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.